Good morning. Whether you are here in person or watching from home, it's good to be with you this morning. It's good for all of us to be together. As we gather this morning, let me share with you words from the 20th century Jewish theologian, Abraham Heschel. Heschel once said, "Just to be is a blessing. Just to live is holy." This simple but important sentiment, which we sometimes forget in troubling times, is also reflected in the lyrics of the piece our choir is about to sing. We give thanks for being, we give thanks for being here, we give thanks for being here together. Come, my friends, with our hearts open to both the challenges and possibilities that this new day and new week bring, with our hearts open to all that inspires, sustains, redeems, and transforms us. Come, let us worship together. The flaming chalice is the symbol of the Unitarian Universalist tradition, the liberal religious tradition to which this church belongs. Will those of you here in person please stand in body or spirit for our chalice lighting? And if you have a chalice at home, I invite you to light it with me at this time. Please join me in saying the words on the screen. As we kindle this flame, we recommit ourselves to nurturing the spirits of one another and the common good of the world we share. May the light of this flame be welcoming to all who seek a liberal truth home. For those of you already standing, I invite you to remain standing for our opening hymn, which is number 347, Gather the Spirit. You may be seated. Hello again. My name is Becky Elliott, and I'm happy to be part of your worship team this morning. Whether you are a first-time visitor or a long-time member, I offer you a special welcome this morning. Here at the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Raleigh, we are intentionally inclusive, liberally religious, and actively serving the common good of our shared world. Whoever you are, and wherever you are on your own religious journey, you are welcome here. If you are visiting us for the first time in person, I invite you to stop by our welcome stand outside in the foyer if you haven't already done so. Fill out a visitor form, get a name tag, and pick up one of our Guide to UUFR pamphlets to find out more about UUFR and Unitarian Universalism. If you are visiting online, I invite you to fill out our visitor form. If you do this, you'll start receiving our weekly e-newsletter. This morning, Bill Devereaux, one of our lay ministers, will be available in the front right corner of the sanctuary, right over here, after the service to talk with anyone who might be experiencing any difficult circumstances in their lives and would just like to talk to someone. I hope all of you will read through the chalice you received by email on Friday about everything happening here around UUFR and check out the upcoming events section of our website. Let me highlight a few things this morning. A Transgender Day of Remembrance and Resilience will be held this Wednesday, November 20th at 7 p.m. here in the sanctuary to honor and celebrate and memorialize the lives of those who we have lost. Anyone is invited to join us as we remember these lives and offer our witness and support to the transgender members of our community and the wider community. Some members of our congregation, for various reasons, are struggling to decide where to spend Thanksgiving this year. If you have any open seats at your Thanksgiving table, I encourage you to post about it on the thread on our UUFR Members and Friends Facebook page. Or, if you're looking for a place to spend Thanksgiving, I encourage you to post it there as well. Our in-person social hour this morning is downstairs in Founders Hall, and now I invite you to meet and greet your neighbor. I hope you'll finish these conversations during our social hour after the service. This is the time in our service when we acknowledge some of the joys and sorrows of our community. We do this because we believe a joy shared is a joy made greater, and a sorrow shared is one made easier to bear. Anyone is invited to fill out our Joys and Sorrows form on the front page of our website or in the chalice by midnight on Saturday night before the service. Anyone may also light a candle before the service, over here, and if they wish, fill out one of our cards by hand so that their joy or sorrow can be shared with the congregation. So I have some to share with you this morning. Stephanie Raymond shares that this has been a difficult week for her family. Her husband, David's father, had a stroke. While he is expected to recover, he will need months of physical therapy. Stephanie's grandfather was diagnosed with terminal brain cancer. He has elected to have surgery and hopes that he will get to see his daughter's wedding in March. Stephanie asks, please hold us in your hearts. Stephanie, we are thinking of you and sending much love to your family. Linda Miller shares, I will be having surgery Tuesday and would appreciate supportive thoughts and prayers. Linda, we hope all goes well with your surgery this week. Tina Ostergaard shares that Tuesday is David Ostergaard's 45th birthday. Happy birthday, David. And Marcus Auclair shares, "My mother Andrea is in hospice from terminal colon cancer. She may not make it to the end of the year." Marcus, we will send lots of thoughts and prayers your way, and we'll be thinking of you and your mother. As we hold these shared joys and sorrows in our hearts and reflect on the joys, sorrows, fears, and hopes of our own lives, let's be together in stillness and in silence, opening ourselves to that spirit within us and amidst us, called by many names, but known to every human heart, that leads us to a fuller, deeper, richer experience of life. After the silence, we will sing hymn number 391, Voice Still and Small, but now let's be together in stillness and silence.
Still and small, deep inside all, I hear you call, singing. In storm and rain, sorrow and pain, still you remain, singing, calming my fears, quenching my tears, through all the years, singing.
Good morning. My name is Sarah Ford-Knorr. I'm a member of your board of directors. I'm happy to see you this morning, and I will be downstairs during social hour if you have a question, a concern, or just want to stop by and introduce yourself. Everything that we do at UUFR is only possible because of the generous financial support that so many of us provide. If you send in a check every month or have automated giving set up, I'd like to take this moment to thank you for your generosity now. If you'd like to make a contribution this morning, I'll invite you up in just a moment to place it in one of our 3 offering plates. If you prefer to have an usher come to you, please just raise your hand. And you can also give using any of the methods that'll be on the screen. Our morning's offering will now be taken and gratefully received. Thank you.
Both Reverend Carey and Reverend James are currently away from UUFR. Reverend Carey is in Connecticut visiting friends and will be back on Monday and will lead our worship services next Sunday. Reverend James is in the Chicago suburbs, spending time with his mother as she recovers from heart surgery. She continues to recover well, he says. Reverend James will be away through Thanksgiving and will lead worship services again on December 1st. However, he is available by phone, email, and Zoom while he is away. While Reverend Carey and Reverend James are away, we have the pleasure of welcoming back to UUFR Jenn Kapranov. Jenn, who last spoke at UUFR in January, is the Intern Minister at the Unitarian Universalist congregation in Chapel Hill. She is currently a student at Meadville Lombard Theological School, a graduate of Bennington College, and a member of the Unitarian Society of New Haven. Let's give Jem a warm welcome back to UUFR.
Good morning. I'd like to start with a reading from Parable of the Talents by Octavia Butler. To survive, let the past teach you. Past customs, struggles, leaders, and thinkers, let these help you. Let them inspire you, warn you, give you strength. But beware, God is change. Past is past. What was cannot come again. To survive, know the past. Let it touch you. Then let the past go.
From all the fret and fever of the day, let there be moments when we turn away, and deaf to all confusing outer din, intently listen to the voice within. In quietness and solitude we find the soundless wisdom of the deeper mind. With clear, harmonious purpose, let us then bring richer meaning to the world again.
Thank you for welcoming me back to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Raleigh. And I am so grateful that Reverend James has allowed me to come back to speak to you again. I hope that you have all had a chance to rest, either over the past week or over this weekend. You all worked very hard. For months and months, this congregation has been working. And it can be difficult to switch gears and disengage, but sometimes we need to. If you're anything like me, you might be feeling anxious or frightened or overwhelmed these days. The more I watch the news, the heavier the weight I feel on my chest, crushing me. And I have to admit, these days, sometimes a small part of me wants to curl up in a ball under the blankets and pretend that none of this is happening. That is usually the time that I know I need to give myself an hour or so and watch a baking show or do something that involves dogs. It's important to give ourselves a break now and again. Trying to carry the whole weight of the world can sometimes make us just want to shut down. When I feel the need to shut down these days, I'm trying to process through the Serenity Prayer. And there are several versions of this prayer. But the most common modern version goes like this. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Most of us know the Serenity Prayer. My primary introduction, I think, came probably from the Hallmark store at the mall. They used to have those little plaques or wall hangings right next to the footprints in the sand section. I don't think I took it very seriously. It wasn't until much later that I've kind of developed an appreciation. Several years ago, I was given the opportunity to attend a Narcotics Anonymous meeting as a part of a pastoral care class that I was taking. And I'm sure that some of you have been affected by AA or NA or Overeaters Anonymous or some form of addiction disorder in your lives and understand the important role that the Serenity Prayer plays in recovery and healing for so many people. I feared that I would be a distraction at this meeting as an outsider, but members of the group welcomed me in, they shook my hand, they invited me to sit at the table with them. And when the Serenity Prayer was spoken, heads were bowed, arms were extended, and there was a woman sitting at the table with tears just streaming down her face. She shared later that she had lost custody of her children, and she feared for their safety and well-being. She prayed for the strength to meet the requirements to get her children back. And she spoke about needing a higher power to hold her and keep her on the right track. She needed both the members of the group and whatever it was that she viewed as the divine. And I was so moved by her vulnerability and her willingness to admit freely that she had to give herself over to something bigger than herself because she could not make it alone. In that moment, the Serenity Prayer held more power for that person than anything I'd ever seen before. It was her lifeline. So where did this prayer come from? It was written in the 1930s by a German-American theologian named Reinhold Niebuhr. He was a professor at the liberal Union Theological Seminary in New York. Now, this prayer is very well known, but there are aspects of it that are a little mysterious. And I have to admit that I have always struggled with this prayer. And its meaning. I'm a UU, not by birth, but certainly by nature. I have a hard time accepting that things are the way they are. That's the way it is. And oh well, that's beyond my pay grade, or that's someone else's problem. I've always been a little in the if it's gotta be, it's up to me camp, not so much in the letting go and letting God one. I will say, though, that with age and experience, and one failed attempt after another of trying to control the trajectory of the universe, letting go and letting Goddess has developed a certain appeal. Niebuhr wrote this prayer after visiting Europe between the two world wars, as Germany was descending into Nazism. He was rattled out of his previously held pacifist beliefs. And he was forced to look at the absolute need to take action in a world once again on the brink of destruction. This led him on a meditation of the nature and practice of evil. Some theologians explain evil as the absence of good. This seemed incomplete to Niebuhr. He considered whether evil was an active force in the world and suggested that we must always be aware of this force and actively hold it in check. At the same time, he believed that ultimately evil is not done so much by evil people, but by good people who do not know themselves and who do not probe deeply. I think many of Niebuhr's thoughts are relevant now. In Niebuhr's prayer, he asks for the serenity to accept the things that we cannot change. How do we understand this? Because clearly, Niebuhr did not just accept Nazism. I think he's using the word accept a little differently. That we should acknowledge the full reality of something, admit that it is a fact. If you struggle with a substance addiction disorder, or if you have mental health issues, accepting that these issues are real and must be addressed are the first steps to getting help and hopefully healing. If you receive a medical diagnosis that is life-altering, denying the diagnosis or pretending that you did not receive the news, it's not going to make it go away or stay dormant. Things left untreated have a tendency to get worse. And many of us know how hard it is to help someone that cannot or will not accept that they have a problem. But ultimately, how someone addresses their problems, or even if they don't, is utterly beyond our control. As frustrating and painful as that is, we cannot make people think what we think or act as we would have them act. Just as we don't decide who lives or dies, we don't control the weather, and we don't control foreign governments. We cannot decide on our own who will lead our own government. We cannot change the past, and we cannot undo our mistakes. So what can we do? I think according to Niebuhr, we accept, for one thing, that life can be unfair, that many of us do suffer, and that one day we all will die. But we can commit to making that quality of life as just and fair and loving as we can for one another. I can't stop anyone from getting sick or dying, but I can love and support them and hold their hand as they embark on their final journey. I can't change the weather, but I can help prepare for a storm when I know one is coming. I can gather resources and reach out and find out what people need. I can ask, what is my purpose right now? What is my right next step? What is the truth of this situation as I see it, and how can I help? We also need to consider acceptance of our past and our present as a nation. It's a tricky word. One of the deepest points of tension in our country right now is that some of us are committed to looking at the history of violence and injustice. Others do not want to accept that these injustices were committed. Unless we all accept that certain historical facts are not only true, but caused harm and greatly impact how our society is functioning today, we cannot begin to address the major changes needed for us to move forward in any healthy way. So how do we help each other do this without creating deeper wedges or more tension between us? How do we move forward in general, now when so much is going to be asked of each of us? Acceptance from this perspective is important, and so is vulnerability. It's important to acknowledge that there are things that are completely beyond us as individuals, and also acknowledge that our abilities change. There are things that I used to be able to do that my body will not let me do anymore. I'm sure some of you understand what I'm talking about. We may not be able to see or hear or walk or remember as well as others or as well as we used to. Some of us may be caregivers now for children, loved ones, our partners, our spouses, and we can't take the same risks that we used to be able to take. That's valid, and that's important to accept, but it's difficult sometimes. So how to rethink or reimagine our roles in this shifting world? How do we begin to change the things that we actually can change? That's a big one. And I think we can break it down into two different parts. What are the things that we as a community can change? And what are the things that we as individuals can change? As a community, you each bring a wide array of interests and talent and knowledge to this collective pool. You can attack problems from different angles, or as we saw over the past several months, you can harness your talents and focus on one single objective. You participate in a vast number of projects and programs, all of which make some impact in the greater community as well as your own. So what do you do that is truly courageous? What is the change that you are willing to make happen? What is the task beyond your current imagining that would be even more impactful, more transformative than what you're doing right now? I don't expect you to have an answer at the moment, but I invite you to let yourselves go deep. Think long and hard about that question. What are you as a community moved to do to work for collective change in this changing world? Now for us as individuals. And I think that can be a little harder because there's safety in numbers. And when you stick your neck out alone, there's no telling what can happen. And being courageous can be a lot easier when you don't have much to lose. I will admit it is harder for me to be courageous now because I don't want to do anything or say anything that's going to harm the people that I love, the people that I care about. But that said, the more I have to love, the more I have to risk to ensure their continued well-being and safety. So many of us have children, grandchildren, nibblings that we are very worried about right now. Part of me wants to snuggle up our kids and run and hide, protect them from all the pain that they may face in the days ahead. But that's my fear. It's not theirs. I don't get to choose how they will live their lives. So, I must act with sustained courage in every way I can and try to maintain a safe and loving space for whenever they have need of it. Just like Niebuhr felt that there may be evil forces acting upon the world, he believed that there are forces in conflict within us. It's easy to convince ourselves that something is beyond our abilities and therefore not our problem. Well, now is the time to expand our abilities. Think long and hard about those untapped resources within you. How many of us have heard a little whisper in our ear, needling us that there is something we are meant to do, that there is someone we are meant to become? Because once we strip away all of the anxiety about the things that we cannot control or change, that gives us so much space to focus on those things that we really can change. So where does wisdom come in? Perhaps wisdom is listening to and learning from all that has come before us. Looking back at, unfortunately, all too familiar patterns in history. Considering our UU ancestors and all the tremendous challenges that they faced before us, and embracing the tools that they have given. A legacy of resistance. Powerful words, songs, and our flaming chalice, which informs me every day. They remind me that it is my duty to consider the inherent worthiness and dignity of every living being, whether I like them or not, and to hold love at the center. And that means I wear a chalice around my neck, and when I meet someone that may need shelter or sustenance or sanctuary, it is my job to offer it. We know that when communities splinter, when people feel isolated and frightened, it creates a doorway for evil to enter. So we must reach out and continue to build connections, like we have been doing in this state for months and months. I am reminding myself that in the days to come, there may be more than the people that we already consider marginalized today in need of our help and our protection and our love. And that brings us to the very first word of the prayer, God, which is a tricky word for some of us, me included. So whether you believe in a divine being or ancestor spirits or nature spirits or the power of community, there is an awareness for most of us of the interconnectedness of all things. We are a small piece of something greater. accepting that each of us has our own part to play, and acknowledging that I cannot decide how you're going to play your part, and you cannot decide how I'm going to play mine. But we can engage in conversation. We can build a bigger tent and invite all who need us to enter. Because like that woman that I met in the Narcotics Anonymous group, and like some of you, I can't make it alone either. I need the power of community, the power of song and dance and celebration and ritual. And I need whatever divine force may be out there to lift me up and out of the pain and suffering in this world. I know that there is hope in our movement. I know that holding love above all is not intended to save souls. It is intended to save lives, and we do. We do. There are times throughout history, like now, like when Niebuhr wrote this prayer, that we have to dig deep, maybe deeper than other generations, and ask ourselves, how much is this life worth? And not just my life or your life, but all life, because that is what's on the line here ultimately. Perhaps serenity is being able to say that at the end of our day, or at the end of all of our days, we each played our part to the best of our abilities. And when given the opportunity to act courageously, we chose to do so far more often than not. May we rest easy, knowing that our collective and consistent acts of courage help to keep the arc of the moral universe tipping towards justice for as long as it takes. May it be so. Amen. Blessed be.
Thank you, Jen, for those words and for being with us again. Will you please stand in body or spirit for our closing hymn, number 86, Blessed Spirit of My Life.
Blessed Spirit of my life, give me strength through stress and strife. Help me live with dignity. Let me know serenity. Fill me with all vision. Clear my mind of fear and confusion. When my thoughts flow restlessly, let peace find a home in me. Spirit of great mystery, hear the still small voice in me. Help me live my wordless creed as I comfort those in need. Fill me with compassion, be the source of my let love be my legacy.
You may be seated. Let us end our worship together with words from Mary L. Clary. May the peace of flowing water be with us. May the beauty of starry skies be with us. May the warmth of companionship be with us. And may the miracle of this world in its fullness bless us this day and each day of our lives. Amen.